So as we saw in the last video, I was stiffening the crown and the brim, and now I put them together. You might think I've jumped a little bit here, but I just want to show you how it looks. And I've blocked it on this block here, so I've put lots of them together because this is for a designer and he wants this to be really, really high. So, you don't have to do it this high at all. It's just an idea. It's just one that I'm creating at the moment, so I thought I'd show you how I'm doing it. You can have them much shorter, you could have flat top, whatever you fancy with it. This now I have pinned together, so I'm just going to unpin it and just show you how it looks. So what I did from the stiffening was put the brim back on the block and then cut it to the shape that I wanted it. So this is it. So it was quite a slanted brim, this one. It was on the side of the brim that I use, it slants down. And then the back, you'll notice I've just flipped that up. All I've done is got a bit of steam. So I've just held that over the kettle, the steam, and then just manipulated it up after I've stiffened it all, because then it's quite good. It sort of stays in shape then. So I've just steamed it over the kettle, taken it away, put it down on my block, which, this isn't done with a block. This is just done by hand. And then I've just gone from it being flat to coming up. So it's like getting this bit here and then just steaming it and then just pushing it up. Just manipulated that with my hands until I'm sort of happy with the shape. And then I measured it all and then I cut what I wanted. So at this point you will cut what you want. You can have 5 inches on the side, you can have 4. You could start with it wider and then bring it in slowly, because originally I did have this wider. I only took 1 inch off all the way around, and then when we put it on and tried it on the model, it was too wide. So just brought in the size. I've taken 2 inches off the back, 1 inch off the side and 1 inch off the front. So a little bit here and a much more at the back. You can also see that I've got a line here, so this just shows you where my front is. I put this in quite early on, so I always know where my front is, and then I can sort of angle it and make sure it's right. If you don't want this chalk line, you can put a little mark here. This will come off later with the brush when I brush it off. So then you want to join the 2 pieces together. You might just start doing it just like this, but say if you've got it a bit squiffy by accident, it might not sit right. So I like to use my block, but what we could do is roughly put it in place, and then we'll get the block and put this on, and then I'll have a look at my front and just make sure that's in the right place. I also have to look at my crown, the top, and just make sure that that seems like it's in the right place to the actual block. See if it's fitting. It's sitting down nicely. That's completely on, so I think that's in the right place. My back looks slightly off though. Yes, I am slightly off here. So I'm going to pull the brim around a little bit, so I can see I'm lining up my line with the knobble under here, so I know that that is the front of the block. I can fit all that up inside. Then I'll just check my back. I think my back needs a little bit more steaming. Just to make sure that's in the right place. You can see the back needs a little bit more steaming there, so I can do that later. So my front looks My front looks good there. My back looks good there. So then we pin it. So I use little dressmaking pins. You can use big ones if you prefer. I'm just going to put a few in just to try and keep it in place before I take it off. You might have done this before, so you know you're not new at millinery and you've done this, you know what you're doing, so you can get through this quite quickly. But I'm just showing you in case you've never done this before and you're wondering, because there are always questions that come up. And you might be really worrying about it. They might be quite simple, but I know what it's like when you're a new milliner and you do think, oh God, is this a big secret? Should I know this? And you worry about it, and then when you find out the answer, you realise, oh, that was so easy. But I know what it's like to panic, so I just want to sort of show you everything. But that's to the side, we've pinned that, but I'm just going to put them in properly because now I can, it's a bit easier, now I've taken it off. Okay, also my brief was to make sure that this hat is 22.5 inches. So I blocked it on this one, which is 22.5, and I brought the brim on my 22.5 brim block. But when I put the two together, it shrinks it by 1/2 inch. I've mentioned this before, so it does shrink it, so it make it 22. I actually made it a little bit less than that because this is velour felt and it's quite thick. So then we have the issue of smaller, obviously. So then you have to steam it back out. So what I've done is put the two together and then steamed it. So it was 22.5, went to 22 when I put the two bits together. And then I've put them back on the block with a bit of steam from the kettle, just to make sure it goes back to being a 22. And I'm going to have to keep doing this because when I put my Petersham inside, it's going to shrink it again. So then I'll need to put it back on the block and stretch it out again. So that's okay. I can stretch it out before I put any hot water or anything in it. I just put some steam inside, stretch it onto my block. So the Petersham will stretch a little bit to allow it to go back to the 22.5. Because this is for a man, so they have bigger heads than we do. Don't know why, but they do. Most of them. I wouldn't say everyone. So, and I've got quite a small head, so I need to make these reasonably large, so it fits. Now we're going to wire this and sew this on here. You can, if you want to, which I used to do, was sew wire onto the brim before I put it in here, or you can join it together and then you can put the wire on, because then you know it's not going to warp at all, because sometimes if you put the wire on before you put it on this, then this middle bit might move around and squish in and out, so it might make it just slightly more difficult. Now I'm going to show you how to tack on this edging here, which I have made a short little video on just showing you how to do it. And I'm going to start off here. Just obviously thread your needle. Now I do little stitches on the outside and big stitches on the inside. I'm going to start on the inside. Oops. I'm going to start on the inside. You need to see. So I've got my lip here, which has just gone up inside the crown, and this is about 1 inch wide, so I've got enough room to sew this in. So I'm just gonna push it about halfway between here and the edge, and all this is going to be covered in Petersham, so you won't see this at the end. Come out and tiny little stitch in, out again, big stitch. Tiny little stitch on this side. Big stitch on the inside, and just do that all the way around. So I'm just going to carry on and do this, and I will come back to you.